Good evening, everybody. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to McDuff Lives, and welcome Ospreys, and welcome particularly to our three guests tonight, Tara Starr, Amber Connor, and Carol McIntosh. Good
Hey,
evening, ladies,
John.
Good
Hey,
evening.
everybody.
and I'm glad to have you guys back. It's so nice to have you in my life for years now. First charrette was July of 2019. And it was quite a memorable occasion. We got to know each other, and then the group started expanding and expanding, and now it's really all over the world. The
Mm-hmm.
Screaming Ospreys. So you guys are the core of a large bit of our Screaming Osprey group, and you formed a little trio called Protecting the Nest. After we did that tour. We saw the osprey up there on her nest as we approached in a little taxi boat, and she was angry as hell, and she screamed at us, "Get away from my nest!" And that's been the model for this little group called Protecting the Nest. So, ladies, thank you for joining me again, and let's say hello to each of you. Let's start with Tara. Hi, Tara. Oh, turn on your mic, Tara.
Sorry, I did the reverse. Anyway, so last couple days of summer, and we were just all kind of talking about how we're getting ready to transition into fall, even though we live in different areas and it's slightly different for all of us. Our psyche all goes through the same kind of process anyway, harvest time. And so hopefully, Amber, Carol, John, I think that as the nesters that we are, and like John, you're saying right now, we have nests around the globe. It's time to kind of switch off where we give it up to the Eagles. Is that right?
I don't know. I don't know if I trust the Eagles.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't trust too much.
Carol, what do you think? Shall we stick with the Ospreys or
Yeah, let's stick with the Ospreys. I wanted to give you some kudos, John, for protecting your nest. I love your new show with Nick, and you had Carmadoc on, and you're really have a great attitude about a big challenge you're facing, and I feel really great too that the advice we all kind of got together and gave you wasn't misleading you. I think we were headed in the right way, and I'm just so glad you have a couple of real professionals that can talk about those things and are doing such a great deep dive. I went out and bought some of that garlic stuff. I haven't got a way to puff it yet, but I could drop it on things. The Allison V is one of the topics of your last show. It was great.
thanks? And I had to go out and buy one of those vapes too. You have to go to a tobacco vape shop.
Oh, is that it? Because
Yeah,
I
you
was
can't get
looking.
it
It
in the
didn't.
cannabis vape shops. You got to
Okay,
go.
that's the problem.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna write that down.
yeah, because it has to be empty. Um,
Uh-huh. And
yeah,
it has to take liquid.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, the other ones take goo and stuff. So
All right. Let's say hi to Amber. How are you doing tonight, Amber?
I am doing well, and actually, it's kind of like it's harvest, and I think what I've learned so far this year is when you're waiting for an authority to think for you, to help you figure out something, you're going to be very disappointed. And I started going back and reading about the Tudor women, and I started going back in the day of the duration of the Roman Empire into their battles within paganism and what we see now playing out with the Catholic and Protestant Church, where they have a tag along with um, Judeo Christianity and the Jewish and Muslim belief system. And it seems as though it's cyclical. Anytime those peoples waited on a king or an authority to tell them what to do, many were left behind, many were slaughtered, many were left to a disease, to a plague, to an issue that was instituted by filth and by those few that held the coins and put upon us the taxes. And so, since the beginning of time, we as people have dealt with this. It's so good to know that when we're protecting our nests, we're all coming together to come up with those things that we share, that says this will help you with pain, this will help you with your sore, with your bee sting. These are things that we really need to start to keep our own journals, start to keep our own information, and do what those that we've allowed to be an authority over our health um, showed us that they will not do, and that we are just a commodity and expendable. And since they have not earned our trust, then we need to reconfigure and listen to their guidance, but then look at what others have seen and found, because sometimes we get left by the wayside. And I'm so glad you're doing that, John. And I'm so glad others are stepping up to help you do the same.
Thank you. I'll just toss this out there. In my case now, I'm confronted with the necessity of maintaining a positive state of mind, the necessity of not being anxious, the necessity of instead directing, those trans good transformative thoughts inside of myself, and uh, uh, kind of a directed imaging type of pattern that to really and to spend a lot of time uh, caring for things, like doing a sauna. Like I got that sauna blanket. I do that 2 or 3 times a week just to make sure and do something along those lines. I want to eventually get a real sauna, but this does pretty good job. It's pretty cool. So doing things like that are prioritized, but at the same time, I'm also reluctant to let go of the work that I'm doing, because I really do think that and I'm not bragging. I just do think that I'm at the cusp of a lot of what's going on,
Yeah, we agree.
and we have lots
I
of.
agree.
Thank you. Well, we have tons of people in this group that are making a great deal of progress on all kinds of things. But first of all, I really feel like I'm assembling a body of videos that can convey the true, real history of the United States. Through all the book readings I've done in my minefields, and it's all starting to come together in a big, organized way for me. And I think that can be really beneficial. And that doesn't interfere with my taking care of myself. But when I start looking into the weaponization of things, of biological things, products, then I start taking it personally, because it is personal with regard to my dad, and it is personal with regard to me, in the sense of being and I don't call myself a targeted individual. I'm not getting, a bunch of microwave beams at my head like some people report. But nevertheless, it, the the most likely theory to me is that I am being targeted by some type of microwave type of a weapon, due to who I am, who my father was, and the desire to make sure that his story doesn't get told, and my story doesn't get told. And they are shutting people down now, and I think we are really in an information war, as well as all kinds of, the the five fifth dimensional warfare, psychological warfare, deception, false flags, uh, Machiavellian tactics. And to what end? Some people think that it's a great medical experiment, that they want to get all the data on us and put it into big computers so that they can, replace us with robots, or create their own humans, or implant something into themselves that gives them immortality, or just to study us intimately. And that's what it's really about. And some people think that this is depopulation. That the idea is that, the rich people have decided that there's just too many of us, and we're getting a little bit scary, so we're going to cull the herd, and they think of us as a herd. And in my studies are leading me to say that both are right, and that the the one group which wants to cull the population is the traditional old elites, the kings and the emperors and the popes and the great who's of powers of the ancient world. Whereas the ones that want the data are the Searies, the Freemasons, I think the Jesuits, I think the ones that want to manipulate humanity as a whole by having enough scientific information that they can do that. But I see this as like a Venn diagram, whereas you take the one big circle of the old elites and the other new big circle of these, corporate, Freemason, oligarchical elites. And what they've done is that they've kind of merged together in a Venn diagram, so that that thing in the middle is where they have all agreed that what goes on in there, neither side is going to object to. They're going to let it happen. And they're just making bad things happen and letting bad things happen in order to expand the area that they're working together on, and eliminate the fringe people that are not with that combined program, so that eventually they're going to have the one world all taken under that one thing that used to be just the center of the Venn diagram. And what is driving it all is this corrupt financial system that we've got. And nobody is bucking the financial system. And that's where I think we're at right now, is that there is a kind of a subtle agreement among the powers of different sorts that there are certain things that are just going to be allowed, such as the assassination of Kennedy, such as the destruction of the Glass-Steagall Act, such as all of the shenanigans that have gone on to create terror in this country, such as the Patriot Act, such as the obvious violation of the Constitution in doing so. All of these things, to me, tell me that these great powers have combined in a way that the rest of us have no voice whatsoever. We're outside of that magic little Venn diagram. But those that are inside of it have sworn to each other that they're going to let it happen. And that's what's happening now. The contamination of health products, the contamination of food, the contamination of water and the environment, the destruction, everything. It's all being allowed to happen within that kind of center part of that Venn diagram that they've just kind of come to agree to. So I think it's a terrible war that we're in, and they are controlling the information, and they do own the media, and they do shut down people like me. And if somebody starts getting this voice out there that makes sense to a lot of people, they're going to shut you down. As we've seen it over and over again. They will either call you an anti-Semite, or they'll find some old sex thing after you, or do something to shut your ass down. So we're at a war, in an information war, and I think, I want to keep raising the alarm that we are, in fact, under attack.
And
Well, I
John,
think you're doing a great job, John, with the history part and your passion, and you have been for a long, long time. You brought up the point about the potato famine, just how intentional that was,
Yeah.
just all these little bits of history and your dad. I think, you're doing an amazing job. I just saw a really interesting film the last hour and a half that really reminded me of you. The guy who did this presentation, he teaches peace. He teaches that he's a professor of peace studies. I think at McAllister, might have been McGill. but he has cancer, and
Oh,
this is
you're talking about Graham McQueen.
yes, yes, I
Oh,
am.
I
Yeah.
see. There's this video that was posted by Redacted,
Right.
which is
That's what is
a very,
exactly what I'm
yeah,
talking
a
about.
very popular,
Hmm.
uh, alternative news journalism show. It gets hundreds of thousands of views. I don't know how it was that they got to circulate this movie. It was made by a couple of filmmakers whose names escape me, but Graham McQueen I recognize because I read his book on anthrax, and I did a minefields on it about a year ago, and I was trying to get Mark Kulak's attention to that book because I think it's really is super helpful. And in that show that you're referring to, and I think it's called Silenced. I'm going to see
It's
if I
called
can spell it.
Peace, War, and 9/11 was the
Oh,
name of the
Peace,
one.
War, and nine
Yeah.
11.
Uh-huh.
That's right.
And it did focus a lot on 9/11 and anthrax. He did
Yeah.
go through that. Yeah.
And he said about the anthrax, that his his evidence led him to believe that what happened was the anthrax was supposed to follow on to 9/11 to convince us, that we're seriously under attack, by not only by the planes, but also by the anthrax, so that we'd go right into the Patriot Act. But the plans got messed up because somebody, some good person, some good scientist, a good guy, let it be known that this strain of anthrax had to have come from
Mhm.
an American weapons lab, and that blew their plans. So that's why they've been scrambling ever since, and we're trying to
Yeah.
figure it out. But that's Graham McQueen's conclusion after a thorough and really terrific study that he's made, and it's all described in that video. But
Mhm.
doggone it, when I saw that the first couple minutes of it, when he says, I got diagnosed with metastasized, stage 4 cancer 4 years ago, and I decided to spend my time, putting together all this evidence so that we could have it. And I did my
Mhm.
specialty is textual analysis, he says. So he got all of the witness statements from everybody,
Mhm.
the cops and the witnesses and the reporters and everybody that was there, and he analyzed every time that somebody said a certain word, like bomb, for instance, and from that, he was able to show, that there was foreknowledge of Building 7 coming down, like for instance, but a lot of other really important things that he did. This is important work that he did.
Mhm.
And then he got it done, and unfortunately, he then passed away. But that's exactly what happened to me. In 2 months ago, I was told, I've got, stage 4 metastasized prostate cancer, and you know, we started talking, and the doctor, he said, once it gets into the lymph nodes, there's nothing we can do. And oh God, it's been so awful to just, I mean, I don't cry, but I did cry. And
Yeah.
I had a lot of bad nights, but and I recorded that in my journal there on Substack. If you look at my Substack page, you'll
No,
see me
yeah,
talking
I've been reading it.
descending into the inferno, the
Mhm.
fear and everything. And it's been real, but you know, at the same time, I am absolutely going to perform in this opera in a couple months, and I've been working on my part, working on my role, and I'm not going to let this stop me from doing what I really have wanted to do for a long time, and that's get back on stage and do some real performing.
Well,
So
music can heal you too. Just,
yeah, well, that's the other side
yeah.
about it is that it is good. It means
Mhm.
all of it. It's all good. So I'll be doing that as part of my healing, and also just to hopefully, while all of these great medications that we're taking now that I shouldn't talk about because of YouTube's rules, are absolutely working. And I've been doing what you guys
Good.
suggested. I've been doing, what Kathy Sue suggested. I've been doing what Nick and Carmen Doc and I'm doing what my wife suggests. I'm doing what everybody has come at me with. And, there's a lot of stuff we haven't investigated yet. Today was kind of a tense day because we got a whole lot of possible solutions thrown out of this at once at a time when we're already kind of overburdened with trying to research things.
Mhm.
So it was like, oh no, not three more things we got to study, but it's all good. We don't have to do it all at once, and we'll
Mm-mm.
get to it. And anyway, we got another show tomorrow night with Nick, and it's going to be about sleep. So
Oh,
that ought to be
good.
interesting. I think something that we can all probably do better. Maybe not you, Carol. I bet you're a sleeping expert.
No, I don't sleep very many hours. I love to do stuff, and I get up like at 4 or 5. So, but I do sleep deeply, and I love. I think it's restorative. The sleep I do feels great.
Let me
Yeah.
just say to the chat, yeah, the Substack is just under my name. I called it Cancer Side Journal because I'm hoping to write more about the theme of cancer side, not only in my dad's life, but also with so many of public figures that I think in the past have, that just suddenly died of cancer. And I think, wow, that's pretty suspicious when you line them all up together. Uh, and, people like Bob Marley, I think he was a cancer side. And I'm very, very sure that he was,
Hmm.
that
I
he was
read that book you suggested, and that sure was the analysis.
Yeah, so I mean, they get people like Bob Marley who send out a real believable message of peace. You know, that's all he was ever saying was, just like John Lennon is just all about let's just, you know, but they just had to get rid of him. Um, let's see. Sound healing, Freedom 123 in the chat says sound healing. Haven't got to that yet. Real intrigued by it. This whole idea of vibration and as Tesla says, if you want to study the, the, the reality, you need to study frequencies. And so there's probably some frequencies that if I were practicing with them, I could uh, make some progress that I'm not aware of yet. But we can't do everything at once, so that's where I'm at as far as sound stuff. Okay, who wants to go next? Amber, right?
Oh, go ahead, Tara. I think she was
No, I
wanting
was
to say
just gonna
something.
throw in the Royal Rife actual machines where there are some locations that we need to look into, make sure they're still standing post COVID. But yeah.
Yeah, and to your point, John, about the money, what I've found in digging into history, because they always say history repeats itself, and in the Bible it says nothing is new under the sun. So I kept beating my head against the wall, like, what are they doing? What's going on? And to history. And so when I go back, it seems like every kingdom, every empire, every tribe, they utilized the ones that wanted power over others, utilized that belief system in order to draw people in that were feeling a spiritual side of themselves in order to then have power and control the money or the trade of those peoples. Because you see, not only particular Catholics, but particular Protestants, the Church of England, also people in Jewish nations and Muslim nations, and pagans in general. They would listen to what the people were practicing, what they were doing. They would then erect temples, they would erect statues, they would erect all of these things. And instead of looking to those holy books where people were actually following those holy books, they would extort it, they would twist it, they would pervert it in order to put their service upon a man. And then they would extract the wealth, the farming, the property, and they would take control. And I think that's why nothing makes sense. And they use the words, you're an anti Semite, you're anti Christian, you're a bigot, you're racist. They're using these terms in order to get everyone to fall in line with their religion in order to then control the monetary system. And I think that
Yeah.
you're correct about that. And if we all stay true to our philosophical beliefs and didn't let someone dictate how we should feel about another group, we wouldn't find ourselves in this quandary. But because we tribe up and then we want to attack anyone who goes after our own philosophical beliefs, they utilize that to divide us and then to control our resources. And I think we always fall for that same thing. And if we look at it from this particular response of God separated us during Babylon and gave us all different lands and different tongues. So we're supposed to have different philosophies and different religions. He ordained it so. And so we shouldn't want to have a dominion over everyone and tell them what to do, because we're right back to Babylon, which is what God did not want. So they are putting us in a mind frame of we need one world order, we need to be under one thing. That's what got us in trouble to begin with and put us in separate lands, gave us separate colors, separate tongues. So that's why I like the sovereignty of all nations. And I like for us to keep our constitutional republic. And I don't like for other countries to dabble in other countries' business and to work through resources and trade in a manner of honor and proper division of wealth when it comes to the work ethic that comes from the peoples that are doing the particular thing. So I think that's where we're getting tricked into this idea that there could be a utopia with one type of person. It's not supposed to be that way. There's beauty in everyone. And we get ourselves in trouble when we all want to be one thing. We're kind of a mess. We're full of shenanigans. We shouldn't be put in that situation.
Here, here. And I'm,
Here,
I'm,
here.
not, I'm not turning my will and my life over to George Soros. No way. But let me make a point, though, about finance and the ancient world, which I've been studying with Michael Hudson. Michael Hudson is an economist of long standing who started at Chase Manhattan Bank, boo, right? But he became enlightened in a way, and now is a really well respected, from a conservative point of view, economist who has no use whatsoever for the modern crop of so-called economists, and he knows real economists from the 19th century and the studies, from everybody from Adam Smith to Marx and everybody in between, and what he's also very very deeply studied is the ancient world's debt practices. And so what you just said, Amber, is actually exactly what he said. And that is that, the farmer is the vulnerable one. The farmer has a bad season, can't pay his debts, so he mortgages his land. And then if he loses his land, then he's out of there. And who gets the land? Well, it trickles up, right? It goes up to the big money. And now that's a cycle that happens over and over again. The debt cycle, the debt trap, has been played upon humanity for many thousands of years. It's not new. But they've done it now on such a huge scale that they're able to dictate to governments instead of governments dictating to the banks. And that's where we've gotten to now, is that our governments don't have any power at all. Joe Biden cannot say no when the Goldman Sachs says, you got to talk to Zelensky. When BlackRock says, no, we need more F-16s for Ukraine. When the financial system is set up in such a way that if the governments don't comply, then terrible, terrible things will happen. And not only generally, but in individual cases. Look at Biden's family, for goodness sakes. Look what happened to his first wife. Look at what happened to Beau. He doesn't have a choice. And this is deep blackmail, warfare of the most vicious kind
Hmm.
that is being portrayed, being played out right now before our eyes. And because they control the media, the people of this country are not up in arms with their pitchforks and torches. The only reason is that they control the media. And so they have to shut us down when we tell the truth. Uh, but no, this is war, folks.
Well, maybe our pitchfork should be aimed at the media. And I think that's what the challenge is, really. And I think that video that Graham McQueen did pointed that out so beautifully. He contrasted what the witnesses said and what the media said on a number of different issues, and it was just black and white.
And Carol, and you know what is really frustrating is my biggest test for someone in the media is this. I'll say, you know what? I'm really loving these independent journalists who, when the media can't be there, they're able to jump in. The ones who say, yes, we appreciate that. And we usually contact those people to get their information so we can play it. I'm like, okay, great. And the ones who say, well, they really don't know what they're doing. I then say, wait, when you turn in a story, it gets edited 3 ways to sundown, and only 30 seconds of what all you put on there is on there. And you're going to tell me that the person who live streamed and you saw it live doing a horrible job, whereas you who told a whole story only gets a 30-second clip because the sponsors on your news station are wanting their commercial, and so your clip of an important story about a murder is put down to 30 seconds. No, I think you've got that backwards, because I think they need to be put in their place when they don't appreciate the independent journalism and they're not working in tandem and saying, you know what, we're in a pickle right now and we need as much information as we can get. So the fact that, when they share it on their personal pages, on their personal social media, I really appreciate that. I know a lot of reporters, some of them do it, some of them don't. And so I never go to the ones who don't with a story of anything that I see, because they are fully aware of the Smith-Montauk, in my opinion, and they're fully aware of the fact that there are powers that be that do not want particular information out in the public.
Well, I just want to say that I think I really see a link between all these things. Obviously, there is one, but just so clearly the manipulation through all these things, right? Like even stories, like we've talked about before, each generation hears stories, but like what version are they hearing? Stories get passed on, and there are, these cover stories that are prepared to, either prepare people for what they're going to plan to do or any of this stuff. And when it comes to the health stuff, I don't for a second, I honestly truly do not believe in the limitations that general Western medicine thinks they understand. Like, I don't believe it. I do believe in biology. So, if you're people are looking at things under a microscope, comparing things, different studies, peer reviewed, stuff like that, obviously that those are key factors. But like the energy, things are energy first. And even if you try to grasp, which obviously would be super limited, something like a Chinese culture where they don't even categorize or consider diseases the same way that we do. So it's not like, this one or that one's right, but it's like the ancienter you go, the more it's like, no, maybe you don't have like this particular energy coming through your right side into your kidney the right way, and you need to like, just there's
Open
so
it
much
up.
that goes into it, like you're talking about feeling good, breathing deep, have laughing. And I think detective work and all the information that we have together it's so exciting unto itself. And I think that we absolutely need to remember to space it with super enjoyable moments in our lives, because there's no way that just it doesn't make any sense for the balance in life to be like, oh, there are just people doing like these manipulative, and it's and they are. But if you think of what's going on the other side, we're a part of it, a small part, and it's really big. And we can look to nature even to just experience that divine understanding of the way that like all these elements and different things come together. And part of all of us in our life is to understand that we are going through a journey in these bodies, in these families, in these communities, that has a level of permanence, but also the constant thing is that it always changes. And so energy that never dies, and that's a beautiful thing, we can really kind of help weave together the story of life, and really, I think, bring us to a place where we get beyond all these tricks and traps and things that maybe have slowed us down for a certain amount of time, but then we learn from it, we share information, and just that blessedness of like the realm of possibilities. And so that we don't have, just like the way that we learn other things and pass it on, we can learn to live better and to be healthy. So it's like everything at the same time, when we're like, sometimes we're afraid and we just get through that, and we pray for each other, and we know that everyone has experience of being like old and young and with a parent or whatever. And so I think just really grounding out and just really letting the goodness of life take over much of the time, and just some of the easiest ways, and I've said this a million times, and like whatever, George and other people too, but just being able to like really be like theatrical, expressive, loving, crying, whatever. I think it's fair game. Put it out there. There's someone ready to hear it. And that's where we are at this time. And John, you are right. We are 100% at war. Don't forget it. We're fighting every day. This is the fight of our lives, for real.
Well, I think that's what brought us together. We're the resistance, and there's always been a resistance every time. But somehow, it's so amazing because we came from all over the country, and we have so much more in common than we have. We're all different, but yet we have these curiosity. We like to solve mysteries. We're interested in science. We love music. There's so many things that we have in common that have pulled us into this group, and it's been a great journey. And the thing about music, I think that's something that it doesn't always happen when we get together, but when it does, it's so powerful. And I put a link in the chat for you, John, about Rosalind Chapel, and it's this really cool video. We watched it last week, and it just shows
it's so cool
how important the ancient music was, and that the speculation was that it was like a rifle machine, that each cathedral has these resonant frequencies embedded in the architecture. They call it frozen frozen music. The cathedrals are unique, and they decoded it into an actual beautiful it's like a chant, a Gregorian chant.
What's really cool is anytime our symphony orchestra goes to sing, the best acoustic places are like monasteries or big huge cathedrals. The acoustics, it really wraps around, so it hits every corner, hits all the way back and comes back. And then if you go in a regular auditorium, they have to do a lot of manipulation with all kinds of materials to get that sound that this hollowed out huge structure just has naturally, because of how and it's like it's a secret that I hate secrets, where you've got this knowledge, right? And it's very helpful for people to have, and then people hoard it in order to have it for control reasons. And then they say, well, we can't put it in your hands because you'll misuse it. No, they're misusing it in order to control, and then saying, hey, you shouldn't have it because you'll misuse it, while never giving it or giving a chance for people to be able to use it. And then when people learn it on their own, they call them a witch or a warlock or something, and then they castigate them because that's the hidden secret that they weren't allowed to know. And I think that in itself, if your holiest of people, or the ones that ordain themselves to be the holiest, want to play your God and executioner, all the while holding secrets from you to obtain power, and withhold knowledge, I don't find that very holy. I find that like an anathema to holy. It's upside down from holy. And I think they need to be put in their place. So anybody who says, no, we keep these on hand because only a few should have this knowledge, then I know who they actually serve. And they revealed themselves at that moment.
But what you're doing, John, you're singing opera. That is so powerful. You're vibrating your own music, your own entire body, your water, you get all those beautiful cymatics in every single cell. You're naturally doing what you need to do to get better. So that's really cool to watch that, and how important that is to you. That's the right attitude.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Tara, for all that, and Amber as well. I see we have Karma Doc in the
Yeah.
chat room tonight. Welcome, Karma. And she says, let's see, what she said. The farmer is going to save this country. That's what she says. I agree.
Yeah, she's a farmer.
We've got a great farmer family up the road, about 12 miles from here, that completely organic. They're not certified organic because it's just too weird to try to get certified, but they really are. So I agree completely. Our farmers on the big scale are getting bought out by the big money, by Bill Gates and all. And they're starting to restrict cattle farming and other kinds of beef or livestock farming. They are really trying to take away our food supply and force us to onto their slave food, their GMO crap that assists them to
Insects.
to terminate us when they're ready. It's a horrible thing that they're doing, and I don't know. I don't know how to wake people up, but
well, I had a red hat embroidered, "Make America GMO free again."
nice.
So I'll wear that around.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just throw in this really kind of odd thing. It's not odd, but you guys will understand. So my Nana and Grant, when they first got married, they worked at the mental hospital, like at Concord, New Hampshire. And it's just like, how like when you learn new information, like you backtrack things that you're like, oh, so that means this or whatever. So my grandparents were both really good people. So the patients really loved them. And so there was this one guy that would always tell my grandp, they're putting stuff in the food, they're doing something weird with the food, blah blah. And my grandpa would be like, no, what are you talking about? And he'd like bring him down there and show him that it was fine. And he just wouldn't believe it. And so it's just like, I'm just like, Grandpa, the guy was probably right,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
Nurse
sad.
Ratched was
So sad.
Nurse Ratched was in the food supply for sure. Yeah, the mental homes of oh God, what a disaster. Yeah, and they did experiment on them, and they did lobotomies. They didn't stop doing lobotomies until the 60s at Hartford Hospital in Hartford, Connecticut. Yeah.
The stories
really
are
all had-
awful. The
We've
stories are
had the wool
awful.
pulled over our eyes here with this, with the
Yeah.
whole.
Yeah.
I think that people would do themselves a service to study what that what happened during lobotomies, and how egregious it was. So when people say, oh, the Nazis used to, torture people and do experiments, no, experiments have happened all over this world many, many times. And it would people need to really read up on it to see
Mhm.
that what humans can actually do to one another in order to guard yourself and not be caught off guard, because I think so many people believe whatever they're told because they can't imagine that someone would ever do something. So
Mhm.
it's always good to know history of what's happened so that you can fathom things, because if you can't fathom and you trust everyone in this type of world, you can't protect your family. You really need to
Yeah.
be aware of these things
Well,
of human
Peter
proclivities.
Bragan's book is wonderful on that history, Amber. He goes
He's a
really into
wonderful
the whole
man.
background of mental
Yes,
health and
he's
how the
wonderful.
medications are based on a making it be a lobotomy. It's a chemical lobotomy. So he's got a lot of history. That's
He and his wife are a
good.
beautiful couple. They're
Mhm.
wonderful people. I was so mad when Dr. I'm not going to say the word. I usually call him something else. Dr. M wanted to sue them. That is so disappointed in this man who says he's got character and that he cares about people. I mean, the fact that he would go after the Brigands, shows so much of his actual character.
Well, he's
Well,
probably kind of
we're
like Joe
all kind of
Biden.
we're all captured in that financial system right now that is kept in place by the
Mhm.
media and by the politicians and by the Hegelian dialectic back and forth, back and forth. I just can't believe how vitriolic people on the left are. People that are, these. I mean, I was not against militant feminism. That's sure. I went to militant feminist marches in the '80s. I did, and I support the that the bringing of homosexuality and stuff into the military, which was a big issue back then. I'm glad that people are able to express themselves publicly and freely. Uh, I'm I'm delighted at it, but that doesn't give you a license to just uh, kill, just slam other people, just shut them down. They don't want to hear. They want you to be silenced. Like just they
And
don't want to
and
hear.
to pervert children. It's not okay.
They don't want to hear it. They do not want to hear anything that invades their narrative. And that, people call it I don't know what you call it, except for it's mass, some kind of mass psychological hypnotism.
Mhm.
And they
And
don't see
it's
it.
infiltration. It's also infiltration because there are normal people of all kind of um protests, whatever, you know what I mean, rights, and then they get infiltrated by these scumbags. And for the gay scene or the trans scene, whatever you want to call it now, it's like these psycho class, and then people that have taught how to be in the psycho class are infiltrating all these things and trying to lump everybody together into this like one unified thing, kind of like what you were talking about, Amber. And it's just not that. So there are people, I sent you guys this video earlier, just that are like, yeah, we've just always been like just lesbians and we still don't you know what I mean? Like people that just like you're saying in the 80s that maybe it was like one thing and now it's been infiltrated.
There's a certain type of uh I would say there's a group of people that are really good at understanding what motivates individuals to react a particular way. And so they trigger groups of people. And, I think they realized a long time ago, we do live in the United States of amnesia. What I mean by that is, people pay
Mhm.
attention to like what happened on the sports game. They pay attention to what happened that's insignificant that they really don't have to think about. And the wrong things go into long term memory, and we've got a short attention span. Meanwhile, we're not paying attention to the bill that's being passed in our local legislation that we will find is impeding our freedom, impeding our voting system, causing, conundrums to come up within the next couple of years, because they've known how to work to cause a work day to be strenuous, the news to be strenuous, everything to be stressful, knowing you're going to defrag, you're going to calm down and do something that's going to take your mind off of important things. And then they're going to shove that important information at the bottom of the page at the end of the week when everyone's tuned out. And then they count on it being the United States of amnesia. And I know it hurts people's feelings when I say, hey guys, we live in the United States of amnesia, but get mad at me and prove me wrong, right? Prove to me it's not the United States of amnesia. We're really smart. We know what everything going on in our local legislation in our state. As soon as you prove it to me, I'll say I was wrong. But I think we really need to pay attention to the fact that our weaknesses are being exploited, and we need to be very aware of that so that we're not vulnerable. I mean, people protect themselves all the time from their vulnerabilities when they get in new relationships. When they meet new friends, they don't want to tell someone their fears, but they've outright given those vulnerabilities out to so many other people on their social media, how they communicate. And they've let people who are very masterminds at manipulating it have that information and put us in an algorithm and divide us from our neighbors and friends that we were once close with because of a philosophy or our voting methods. So, we're being played, and they've learned how to take big advantage of us. And we just really need to put our big pants on and turn our brain on and not let them manipulate us. It's hard work, but this isn't a Sisyphus type of challenge. We're not gonna, be stuck trying to get out of this quagmire. No, it is doable. We just have to focus, and we have to be uplifting while we focus, and we have to know that we can and that we'll be successful.
I think it's happening. I just looked at the Peter McCullough talking to the European Parliament speech, and in 10 minutes, he just was so powerfully knocked down the entire false narrative. And the only option is to just totally get rid of the WHO, get rid of the UN. I mean, he laid it all out so clearly. So that's got to have some audience. I think it's just getting clearer and clearer, but it's frustratingly slow.
Well, thank you.
It's kind of like, I'll just say, if you're pregnant and you get to your due date, and then you think you don't have it, keep going, you don't have it, you think, I'm never gonna have this baby. But sometime these things will be turning
That's
over.
a good analogy.
Where you go for a hike, and you do some lunges, and then you do exactly what you got pregnant, what got you pregnant to begin with, and then all of a sudden the next day, you're ready.
Well, the prize for the most memorable line tonight goes to Tara for "Be theatrical." I think that's a wonderful line, and
she's good at that.
Yeah, being
Agreed.
theatrical is a great way to communicate. And,
Agreed.
things that you could say that if you're not theatrical about it, they might not get any reaction. But if you're theatrical, they can't hardly avoid you.
Amber's good at that too.
It's like when you read the books, because you put your energy and your tone and everything into it, and then it's much better than just reading it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks. Well, we're on McDuff Archives on Rumble now is replaying our Cassidy's Run reading and comments, so you can pick up on that, and all the other books that are still available are archived on BitChute on various playlists. I'm now, with the help of the great Addie Ads, who spent 2 weeks here with me on doing this. We now have a complete compendium of all the existing McDuff videos. There's over 1,200 of them.
Oh, great.
We've got them in chronological order, and all of them isolated on their own hard drive. So now we know what we're missing, but we're going to try to find
That's
them.
great.
If not, I'm going to reread the books because they're so important. The
Mhm.
first books I read are the ones that are missing: Secret Team,
Yeah.
the Crimes of Patriots, a number of really important books. But there are a lot of great important books there now. So I'm looking for a way to publish them, republish them all kind of on bank, so that people can access whatever they need, and organize them perhaps in a way that tells the history in a way that has never been done before. So that's what I'm hoping to do here with McDuff Lives and screamingospreys.com, where we keep our calendar. I just want to also let you know, if anybody is interested in attending our performance of La Boheme in Beach Haven, New Jersey, at the Surflight Theater. It'll be on November the 18th, a Saturday night, and the tickets are already available. So anybody that wants to grab a ticket, go ahead and get in touch with the Surflight Theater down there in Beach Haven. It's a beautiful venue, a nice theater, about 400 seats. I've performed there before, and so it's a great experience. So
Are
I
they
hope
going to be videoing it? Where?
I
can
don't
we
know
rent
if
it?
anybody will be videoing it or not. Maybe you will be. Anyway, maybe somebody will come and video. But anyway, that's exciting for me, and I just wanted to let the folks that might be it might not be too inconvenient to let them know you can come and see John sing.
Oh,
Yes.
Nice.
wonderful.
And La Boheme
That is
is such a
exciting.
great opera. I mean, it's
Yes, it
Puccini,
is.
I mean, come on.
It's beautiful,
It's
beautiful.
beautiful. All right, and so are you three. Thank you very much, and thanks
So
everybody
are
in the
you.
chat room.
And
I will
thanks to
see you tomorrow
Addie.
for our Friday live chat with McDuff at 11 a.m. Eastern. So join me then, and we will chat with you in the chat room.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.